All right, everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to today's workshop. Data analysis with Microsoft Excel. My name is Dr. Bruce. I'm the Research Data Management Librarian here at FSU Libraries. So sort of a roadmap for what we will be covering today. We're going to start with an introduction to Excel, provide a little bit of an overview, talk about the Excel interface and some parts of it. Then we will talk about preparing for data for analysis, go over some formulas and functions, what those are, how you set those up. We'll talk about a specific feature of Excel called the Data Analysis Toolpath that can be used to perform some data analysis functions. And then the last section of the workshop, we will talk about how to plot some of the data that you have in Excel and some of the different features that Excel has for visualization. So what is Microsoft Excel? Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet software that features calculation, graphing tools, data analysis tools, and a wide variety of other applications. It is widely considered the industry standard for spreadsheet software. It's used both in private industry and academia across industries. Microsoft first released the spreadsheet program Multiplan in 1982. So that's sort of where Excel kind of comes from. And then subsequent versions added various features all the way up to what we have today. So Excel is used for a variety of different applications. It is used for data entry in industries, in different situations, in field, in the lab, etc. You can also import data that was collected and saved as a text file or CSV file or other different file types. There are hundreds of different formulas and functions supported by Excel and a growing number of add-ons and statistical tools. And you can also take that data and represent it using an ever-growing suite of graphs and visualization functionalities. So at Florida State, there are a few different options for accessing Microsoft Excel. You can download Excel for free as part of FSU's license to Microsoft Office suite that includes a lot of the other Microsoft programs. Excel is available on the desktop computers at Stroger, Dirac, and Engineering Library. It is also available at the FSU Virtual Lab. So if you are off campus, and you don't have access to Excel already, you can use the version on the FSU Virtual Lab, which contains a lot of other software that FSU has a license to. All right, so now I'm going to briefly kind of go over the interface. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this section, just to sort of give us all sort of a baseline so that we're all working same spot. So whenever you open a new Excel file, you'll often hear to it referred to as a workbook. So the entire thing is a workbook. And this contains one or more different sheets or worksheets to help you organize your data. And the worksheets are denoted by those little tabs at the bottom left part of the screen. And you can rename those tabs to something that suits your project or the data that you are. And this is the space where you manipulate values and analyze data. So values in Excel are organized by rows, columns, and cells. So a row is represented by those numbers alongside side of the sheet. So going along horizontally, so you have row 1, row 2, row 3, etc. Columns are represented by letters across the top of the sheet. So column A, column B, C, etc. And then a cell is the intersection between a column and a row. So sort of like the address. So you have an intersection, say, in E3, that would be referred to as cell B3. So the entire menu system, so that top part of the screen in Excel is known as the ribbon. And this whole system contains a number of menus. And the menus contain a series of different tabs. So you have your home tab, your insert tab, page layout, etc. And under each of these tabs, there's a number of different buttons that have various tasks or allow you to edit the spreadsheet. Another really cool part of this ribbon, this menu system, is something called the Quick Access Toolbar. That's located at the top left-hand portion of the screen, where you normally see that little save icon and the undo and redo. This allows you to add various buttons to that part of the toolbar, so they're readily available if it's something that you use often and are going to be used a lot. Instead of searching through the menu system, you just put it right there in that quick access toolbar. And I'll show you in just a few minutes when we actually go into Excel, sort of how to do it. So when we talk about data and data entry, if you are starting with Excel and you are building a spreadsheet, building a worksheet in Excel, there are several different ways to enter information into that cell. You can type directly into a cell by clicking on it and then typing data, whether that is numbers or text. There is also a formula bar, sort of denoted by that X there at the top. You can click on a cell and then click on that formula bar to type the data into the bar. And then you can use a form by entering headers in the first row for all variables and then using that data. Today, we will mainly so we'll use those cells and then we'll type into that formula. All right, So with that out of the way, now we're going to actually dive into Excel. So I'm going to have an example data set that I'm going to be using to sort of demonstrate some examples and things we'll work on today. If you would like to follow along, the data set can be found at this link here on the screen. So feel free to head to that link, download the data set, and that I'll give you all a minute or so to do that. And I'm going to get out of this real quick and paste this into the chat for folks on Zoom. All right. Now you're going to actually go into Excel. All right. So if we look at our data set that we had before, I'm going to go to this tab over here. So this is our data that we downloaded. So this is a data containing average commute times in the United States, various different states from 2013 to 2021. So that is the example that I have, and I'm just making this a little bigger so that we can see. And if you haven't done that before, you just kind of hover over the little lines here on the sides of the columns, and you can drag size and get bigger or smaller. So some things that we can do to sort of clean up our data set a little bit and make it a little easier for us to find data and to do our analysis. The first thing is freezing our panes. So if you'll notice here on this top row, we have headers, each of our different columns. If we scroll down past those, right, and this has got a decent amount of lines here, something 400 some, I believe 469. You'll see that those columns, all those headers, we can't see those anymore. And if we're doing some analysis and we're trying to focus on a particular point, particular column, that can be really important information that we want to keep track of. So within Excel, we can freeze this top pane so that this stays at the top as we scroll down. So to do that, if we go over to the View tab, and under View tab, there is a button for freezing our panes. So if we click on that, you'll see there's a few different options. Right now, there's 3 different options that Excel gives you. You can either freeze the top row, freeze the first column if you're scrolling right, or you can freeze these. Kind of do a custom where you freeze both the rows and the columns. I just want the top row. So if I click this top row, this is that. It's a little hard to see here, but if you're kind of following along, you'll see that it sort of emphasizes this top line a little bit more, makes it just a tiny bit heavier. And then if we scroll down within our data sets, you'll see that those headers stay frozen at the top, no matter how far down in our data set we go. So another thing that we can do is we can sort our data. So you'll see here that this is primarily organized right now by year. So the most recent years at the top, and then it kind of goes down chronologically backwards. Let's say we wanted to organize this by state. So we wanted to have all of the different state informations together. For that, we can sort our data. And to sort our data, that we can go all the way over to the data tab, and we'll see this little sort button. If we click on that, what it'll do now is it has highlighted all of our data. It used to be you had to actually select something within there, but now it's just highlighted everything. But you'll see it highlights all of our data, and now we can set different filters for how we want to sort. So let's say I want to sort this by, sort it by state. And cell values, those will just be the text values, so state names. And then you can sort this either alphabetically from A to Z or backwards from Z to A, or you can make your own custom list. We'll just do A to Z, and then make sure my data has headers box is checked so that Excel doesn't sort those headers into the data set. So if we do that, click OK, you'll see now it is organized by state with our A's first, so Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, etc. And so you can sort these with multiple different levels. So if you wanted to organize it even further, you could do that. Several different limiters, pretty much however many columns that you have, sort. So we'll keep it by state, because that's what we are going to look at today. So now what we're going to do is something called conditional. So conditional formatting is used to change the appearance of cells based on specified conditions, what Excel also called. So this formatting includes things like colors, shade in different cells, change the colors of text, add different icons to cells. And doing this can highlight visually interesting points for data analysis, or highlight a particular section that you may want to analyze. So we are going to, again, go to our states, but let's say we want to highlight particular states. So let's say we want to highlight Florida, for example. So if I click above my state column, so that's column B, hovering there a little bit. If I go over here to conditional formatting, which is right on the Home tab, go to highlight cell rules. Since we're dealing with text, we are going to look at text that contains. And here is where we can set our conditions. So we are looking for cells that contain Florida. And then this is where we can decide how we want to format those. I am going to choose custom format. The only ones that they give are really like red, green, and yellow. I want to choose a different color. So you can go to custom and then go over to fill. And then you can choose from any of these colors that they have here. Screen. Let's just say really light blue. Okay. And on this pop up again, click OK. So now if you scroll down, Florida, you'll see that your Florida cells. And you can choose whatever colors that you like. I just chose. Let's highlight a couple of others because we'll be using these later on. So again, conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, text that contains, and we're going to do Alabama. It's right at the top, so we can already see it. Custom formats. Looks like it's still on this. And a purple, I'm not sure. Last state that we will highlight for now is Mississippi. Right. Choose orange each. So you'll see if you scroll through now our Alabama, Florida, and then going down further, our Mississippi is highlighted. So this type of formatting can be really useful if we're looking to pick out specific points or search for specific data points within your data set. Questions on anything? So, and if you're online and you have questions, feel free to type them in chat and we'll answer them here. All right, so now let's talk about formulas and functions. So formulas are equations that perform calculations in your spreadsheet. So if you download a data set or you have some data to perform some sort of operation, or if you're inputting data into your sheet and you want to set it up so that it will, perform some sort of operation on the data you're entering, this is what you're going to do. Formulas are those equations that perform calculations. Formulas always begin with an equal sign. So if you're ever writing in a formula, you always want to make sure you begin equal sign. Otherwise, Excel is just going to think that it's some text that you're entering into the cell. Functions are Excel defined formulas. So they take the data that you select and enter, perform calculations and return values. So this essentially allows you to, instead of having to write out a really long formula for some operations, it's condensed down into these functions that tell Excel to perform a specific operation. So formulas, some kind of basic examples of formula would look like if you were doing, say, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, has that equal sign, then it uses the plus operator for addition, minus for subtraction, the asterisk for multiplication, etc. If you are thinking about a function, so function starts out with the equal sign as well. Then it has the function name, and then it has the range that you want to perform that operation. So sum, that allows us to kind of perform addition over a selection of columns and rows. So instead of having to write out E2 plus E3 plus E4, and kind of write all of that out, you can sum over a particular range with this. Average allows us to calculate averages, mean, and then there's several other different functions. And you can write these functions directly into the cells or the formula bar, or use there's a function wizard as well that lets you kind of up specific functions if you're unsure of what to use. So if we go into our cell to show what that looks like. So let's say we are going to do some addition. So I'm going to set this up here side. If I want to do it with a formula, if I just want to use plus sign, a plus operator to set that up. Say I want to add together these first three cells over here under column E. I type in my equal sign, and then I can either write out the cell name. So I can write out E2. You'll see it usually changes color. And you'll see it also shows up in this top bar. Or you can select this by clicking on so I am going to do right out 2 plus 3 plus 4. See, it outputs our value, but you can still see that equation in the formula bar at the top. So this can be a way to check if you're writing out a formula and you're not sure if you entered it correctly, you can check that up bar. If we want to use a function instead, we can use sum. So sum is our addition function. And there's a few different derivations of sum as well. You'll see this with a lot of different functions. There's kind of the standard function, and then there's several different variations. We'll actually see this here in a little bit when we averages. But for now, we'll just look at the sum. And here you can either highlight the cells. So you can either highlight all of these cells, or you can type them out. So you can have like E2:5. Interesting. I see, we were all the way down here. So we actually go back up to sum. Of E2 to E4. You can see that 75. Here, that is 75. So I didn't realize I had scrolled all the way down to row 200, and that's why these are slightly different. So that's why having that formula bar at the top can be useful for checking. All right. So now we're going to do averages, and I'm going to kind of give an example and walk us through it, and then there'll be a little exercise for you all to sort of kind of put that into practice. So let's look at averages. So here I'm going to start with Florida at the top. So let's say I want to average the data that corresponds to Florida. So I want to kind of average this commute time data for the state of. So there's a couple different ways that we can do this. If we here, we'll start typing, and you can see that sometimes Excel will give you a few different options for finishing this. We are just going to use our average to start with. Now we have to scroll down and see what cells our Florida is in and what those correspond to. So that's our cells here. So it looks like E83 to E91. So we can either highlight this or type this out. You could type this out in the formula bar as well. And then make sure once you're done with your range that you close your parentheses. And then we hit enter. So see here, we have calculated this particular average. But let's say that we don't necessarily want to read the entire data set for our values, and we just want to calculate those kind of Florida values, on this initial screen. There is another function that we can use, and that is our average if. So this allows us to find the average for cells that match certain criteria. And here there's 3 different values that we have to include. So the first value that we need to include is the range to search. And so here we're going to search through all of our state data here in this column. So that starts up at E2. And this goes all the way. We saw earlier there was 469 values, I believe. I have that written down, but just want to make sure. 469. So E469. Now, our second value, we want to specify what criteria we're looking for. So we want to look for values that correspond to Florida. So in quotes, we're going to say Florida. So it is going to search that B2 to B469 range for any values, say Florida. And then the average range. So we're going to want to average the values in column. So we want to average those commute time values. So since our data should correspond to each other, we're going to put in the entire range for that E column. So this is what the setup looks like. This is what our formula looks like. And then if we hit enter, we should have the same values. On sides. If you have a small data set that you're looking at, this particular function may not be needed, but this can be useful if you are looking at a larger data set with different data points, sort of help prevent scrolling up. And you'll see that in one of the exercises here. So now we've seen an example. So something I would like right here to do is look at our data for Alabama and Mississippi. So this is the data that we highlighted earlier. And then calculate the averages for Alabama and Mississippi using both the average and average if functions. And then compare your results. So I'll give y'all a couple minutes to. You had a chance to go through that? All right. So the first one we'll look at is Alabama. Anybody brave enough to share what they did for this particular? Like to share online too, feel free to write out in the chat as well.
Average. In parentheses, E3, colon, E10, close parentheses.
And if here, you can see our range. And so we're gonna have really the same range that we were looking at before. 9. 2, 9.
I have probably different rounding than you do.
Ah,
I converted it from number text to number.
okay. Yeah, sometimes it will do that. All right, so Mississippi. So this one we have to search for. Here. So I'm going to write it out in our formula bar up there, so I don't have to scroll back up. So this starts at 218. Six. Close our parentheses. Here to see what this average is. Then for our average, if we our range, which should be familiar to us at this point. Spell Mississippi correctly. Need to be 6. Are same. So as you can see, especially for that second one, Mississippi, took us a little time to scroll down and find that data. So being able to do the average if, really nice. It allowed Excel to search for those values and calculate the average based on those criteria. All right. All right, any questions on formulas and or functions? So with that, now we're going to talk about the data analysis. So the data analysis tool pack is an add-in for Excel that allows us to do data and statistical analysis within the Excel program. It gives us access to a variety of different statistical functions without the need to manually enter all different formulas or functions or set up a multi-step process that you would sometimes need to do. Now, while the tool pack is automatically included with all of the newer versions of Excel, it's not automatically enabled. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. I've done it before. It is a little bit tricky, requires a few different steps. And then one important thing to note is that the analysis tool pack, as of now, its current versions only works on one worksheet at a time. So you can't do analysis across multiple worksheets, and sometimes you have to format things in a specific way for statistical functions. But this is a nice add-on that allows you to do some statistical analysis. So if you need to enable the data analysis tool pack for the first time in Excel, we go back to our Excel. So what we'll want to do is we go over that home page. If we go over to the File tab, and then we go all the way down to the bottom left where it says Options. So it should be the last thing way down at the bottom. Sorry if that is hard to see. So if we click on options, you'll see an Excel options pop up. We go here to add-ins. And then down here under manage, we'll want to make sure that we're on Excel add-ins. There's a few different types of things we can manage here. So make sure we're managing Excel add-ins. And then click go. And then you'll see the different add-ins that are available to install. I know this one is hard to see if you're in the room, but top it says analysis tool pack, and then analysis A, software add-in. So these are the add-ins that are available to us right now. And you'll see right now it's unchecked, so it's not enabled. So to enable it, you'll want to check that. And then click OK. And then it goes away. And then to actually see if you've enabled that, if you go to the data tab and you go all the way, almost all the way to the upper right-hand side, you'll see this little analysis window where it says data analysis. That is our data analysis. So once you've enabled it once, you're using the same computer, you shouldn't have to enable it again. You can disable it if you want to when you're on, but if you're going to be using it a lot, once you do it once, it's already there. So if we click on this data analysis, you'll see that now we see the different analysis tools that we have available. That is all the paper. But you'll see that we have options for ANOVA, we have descriptive statistics, F-tests, T-test, Z-test, regression. So we have a few different options. This won't be every single statistical analysis that you can do, but this is a good selection cell. And then depending on what test you want to do, you would click on whichever option you're looking for, and then kind of set it up. So we don't necessarily have time to go through every single statistical test, but I do want to show one example. So we are going to look at some descriptive statistics. So if we click on our descriptive statistics, click OK, we should see another pop-up up here. And now you'll see we have input and output. So input is the values that we're wanting to perform this analysis on. So this is what we want to perform our descriptive statistics on. So let's say we want to go down to our Florida data and we want to perform descriptive statistics on that. If we go to this little up arrow here at the top, kind of to the side of this field, this will let us select the range that we want to look at. And then click that again to get back into our descriptive statistics bar. These are grouped by columns, that can stay the same. And then if you happen to be have a data set where you are highlighting the first row and there's labels there, just like when we were sorting the data earlier, you'll want to make sure it's checked. Here, that isn't checked, it isn't the case, so we don't have to check that. Then we are going to be doing summary statistics. So we can check this box for summary statistics. And then output options are just where you want Excel to put results essentially. So you can output this somewhere within the same sheet. So if you select a range and you want it to be on the same sheet, it can go there. If you want Excel to make a worksheet, you can put the data there, that. You can even have it go all the way into a workbook. I haven't done that one before, but either of these options are fine. So I'm just going to put this in a new worksheet. So that you can see that. So I'm going to call this stats, but you could give it whatever name you wanted. So now that I have it set up, I can click OK. And you'll see we've created a sheet. And now we have what Excel outputs for our summary statistics. So give this a name we want. I'm just going to say Florida. Then these are the different types of statistical values that are outputted by Excel when we are doing summary statistics. So you'll see some of our tendency values like our mean mode, measures of variability, such as the range, variance, standard deviation, our minimum, maximum. Count is just how many data points we were looking at. And then you'll notice in this particular example, if we look at mode, you'll see that in A, here. So our mode, that is the most frequently occurring number within a set data. There's no one value that occurs once. They occur one time. So we don't have any most frequently occurring number. So that is why you see it here. And again, this is just one example, but sort of shows you how the tool works. So now, so that y'all can try this out a little bit, I'm going to have us do the same thing. But now we'll obtain summary statistics for the state of Georgia. So we'll do sort of the same process, but now we'll be looking at Georgia. And I'll give you all a couple minutes to Everybody had a chance to go over that? All right, awesome. So just to confirm now, go back to our descriptive statistics, highlight our range for Georgia into this worksheet, Georgia stats. Okay. So data Georgia and should look pretty similar. Any questions on the data analysis tool? Right. So now we will move on to the last part of our workshop for today, and that is going to be plotting. So say now we have our data sets and say we want to generate some visualizations or some graphs of that, or just kind of interest. To do that, Excel has a sort of chart ribbon under the Insert tab. So if we go to our Insert tab, you'll see kind of here in the middle, there's this charts section. And there's this really big button that says recommended charts, which we'll look at in just a second. But there's already some pre-populated types of charts that are here. It's called bar charts, scatter plots, pie charts. So there's some of these here, but this is definitely not all of the visualizations that Excel do. So if we go to this, say, recommended, say I want to plot some data. So let's actually select some data first. And we're going to use, this time, we'll want to plot year versus commute time. So it's 2 different data points this time. And we'll go to our standby, Florida. And here we want to plot year versus average commute time and sort of see how those change over time. So if we highlight the data that we want to plot, we go up to this recommended charts icon. You'll see Excel has looked at our data and it gives us a few recommendations for charts that it thinks a good fit for this data. It's important to kind of take a look at all of these and kind of what they're displaying and representing. A lot of times there's at least some of these that don't really fit what you're trying to show, and not be sure why they're showing it, but usually within these, there's at least 1 or 2 samples. If none of these are good, you can also go to this all charts tab, and this will actually show you all of the different types of charts or visualizations that Excel has to choose from. Some of these are good for your data, some will not be. So it's important to kind of think about what you're trying to display, what kind of message you're wanting to get across with your data when you are selecting a chart type. So for our example, I'm going to select this scatter chart. Sort of shows the years on x-axis and time on our y vertical axis. So I am going to do that, and then I'm going to click OK. So what should happen is now we have a chart or a plot that is generated. And you'll see at the top, if you look at the ribbon, you should see a couple more options, a couple new tabs. One of them is design, so chart design, format. I always like to move the chart to its own worksheet. That way, I find that easier to kind of work with, manipulate the plot. You don't have to. But if you want to do that, you just click on this move chart button and go here to new sheet. And then you can say Florida plot. Then click OK. And so now we have that in its own worksheet, and now we can manipulate it, add various things to it, and clean it up. So what I like to do when I have a plot, so that we know what we are looking at, you'll see up here, there is a spot for title. So we can click on that, and give this a title, say average commute time per year. And if we click on our chart so that we're highlighting it, you'll see this little plus tab at the top. These are our different chart elements. So you'll see some of these are checked by default. So by default, it has our axes, our chart title, and grid lines. You can add in other different elements. So I want to add in titles for our axes, so I can click axis titles. If you're working with data where you know there's some sort of error associated, say you're doing some experimental measurements, you can add error bars. You can also add a legend or trend line if that works for that particular set. So I'm just going to choose our axis titles, and I'm going to give titles names. So in our x-axis, we have our year, and in the y-axis, it's a little tilted, but here, going to say time, and that time is in minutes. So now we have our axes labeled. And then say I want to clean this up a little bit. You'll see here our data set went from 2013 to 2021, but it did add in just a little bit of white space. So that 12 2. So if I want to clean that up and eliminate those from the plot, I can click on the axis itself, bottom, and see this brings up a format axes menu over on the right. And then this one is already on what I'm looking for. It's not all the way over to this sort of bar chart looking right on the right. And then where it says minimum and maximum, you can set this to the range that you're looking for. So 2018 to 2021, enter to those. So that will clean that up a little bit. If you want to clean up, the white space along the y-axis, you can do the same. So I'm gonna give you guys a couple minutes to kind of practice this plotting as well. For this one, we're going to plot the same year versus average commute time, but for the state of. I'll give you all a couple minutes to look at that, play around with plotting tools a little bit, and then we begin to wrap up. Everyone had a chance to go through that? All right, so any questions on plotting, seeing those different visualizations? All right. These. All right, so that is most of the material that we were going to cover. So there was a lot that we went through. There's even more information that is out there that is available. So just some resources for y'all to play with if you want to learn more, dive further into some of the things we talked about today, or if you want to expand and learn new things. There are a lot of different videos and tutorials that have been produced by Microsoft who makes Excel. And there's also a list of all the different functions that are available for Excel. There's literally hundreds. And I think they add more with each new edition of Excel. There are also a lot of great modules on LinkedIn Learning, which we have access to here at FSU. So if you want to learn something specific and want some more like guided kind of modules or tutorials, learning is a great place to go. Stack Overflow, you're working in Excel and there's a particular issue that you're coming across or a particular analysis you're trying to set up and having some sort of issue. Stack Overflow is a really great site to go to. It's a forum. Is primarily a lot of power users, folks that use this tool every day for like their work and other applications. And folks are talking about these different issues that they're having. So you might be able to find a solution there or ask the community as well. I also linked on here work with the analysis tool pack. So there's a little guide on how to work with the analysis tool pack. And then those of us at FSU Libraries, if you ever have questions or you're working on a project, you're having to use Excel, you want some more specific assistance, we are happy to help you with that kind of through. So I'll give my contact information here in slides. Please feel free to reach out. All right, and then before y'all take off for today, we would appreciate it if you your thoughts on today's workshop. We have a really cool survey. You can scan the QR code here or go to the link that is at the bottom of the slide. These are really helpful, sort of lets us know what you like, what we need to improve on for future iterations of workshops. So give y'all a couple minutes to work on that.
Yeah, there's a question.
Do you just need confirmation that they ended today? Is that what the question is? Yeah, if you need confirmation, feel free to reach out to me, email, I'll show that on the next slide. I'm happy to help. And so as y'all are finishing up that, I'm just put my contact information here. Screen, if y'all have any questions, points, some more help with this or projects you're working on, feel free to just reach out. Thank you all very much for coming to today's workshop. We have a couple more data at your desk workshops for this semester. Evo coming up in a couple of weeks. We have one on photogrammetry. I'm not teaching either one of those, but just thought I would promote those. If those are topics that you're interested in, please check the library website for more information. All right, thank you all very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.